right, welcome to Useful Idiots. This is a special wrap up of the week, special wrap of basically we brought you a great show this week because Matt was live in Virginia. And
not any place scenic. He was in a Best Western
he was in a Best
motel
Western
room.
in a motel room, and as you'll hear shortly, a meal was ordered and there was a lot of peer pressure to get him to partake in the meal. He was being self-denying, and
we had a good discussion about that, I thought.
Yeah, some of our best discussions are food discussions, yeah. But this is a special week of this is a special Useful Idiots where we're just basically focusing on Virginia, and we're bringing you a special live stream that we did packaged into a podcast. Is that too much like exposition?
No, it's fine. I think it makes sense. Like, and the reality is that it would have been impossible to do our regular show because I was on the road. So
right.
We had to do something that was kind of live. And in fact, that was the original conception of Useful Idiots, is that I was going to be doing campaign reports.
So sad. What happened to Matt? What happened to you, Matt?
What happened to you, man? Yeah.
Do better.
Do better. Yeah, exactly. Read the room.
Read the room.
Read the room. Why are you writing about this when the world is burning? Yeah, and all that stuff.
You and Glenn, man.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
That's the other thing.
Grifters.
Oh, yeah, Matt, you were profiled by New York Magazine.
By friend of show Ross Barkan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He interviewed me, by the way. We can cut this out if it's too fourth wall. None of my quotes made it in.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's interesting. I wonder what that meant. Yeah, I didn't devote a lot of thought to it, but my overall conclusion was that was probably a net negative.
What was a net negative?
That there were no quotes from you in there.
Well, a net negative about what?
No, actually no. Oh.
My quotes were positive.
Yeah, I was gonna say no. Yeah, right. If there was something in there like that, I'm actually like lascivious and demeaning,
and that you do it right, he would have put that in.
Right, he would have put that in. Right. Yeah.
It was boringly adulatory.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Although, yeah, sure. I mean,
you lied, obviously.
I lied. Yeah. I said as a first EHA.
A first what?
I just said you were a first. What is it? What is it?
AMP.
AMP. It was basically all about what it was like to work with an AMP trailblazer.
That's really funny. Excellent. Well, I appreciate that, Katie. I appreciate
did you like it?
The story, I thought it was fair, I mean, look, I'll be honest, when he first told me that he was writing the story, I was sure it was going to be a hit piece, but then I thought, why would they hire Ross to do it? So that part didn't make any sense. If it had been anybody else, I would have,
Was this before or after we interviewed him
It was after, actually.
Look at that.
Yeah. And one of the odd things about that is that
the Useful Idiots bump.
The Useful Idiots bump, but they asked a reporter who's kind of been through a few of the same kinds of things that I have. Like Ross has taken a lot of heat for saying making kind of like run of the mill or observations about like voter behavior and stuff like that. And that's kind of the part of the narrative of the story. So it was a little odd. But I'm glad they did it. He's a fair and decent guy, and that was the only reason that I agreed to cooperate with the story. So, but anyway, we have election stuff to go over.
We have so much election stuff to go over, yeah.
And we thought, I think we thought that there would be more results before the end of that night, and
but we basically knew what was happening.
We did, although we got some stuff wrong, like the governorship, of New Jersey turned out to be, it didn't go red, right?
Did we think it was going to go red? I was kind of
like looking. It was looking that way. No, well, we didn't say it. We didn't call it, but I mean, it was looking that way.
So why are you just put us, you did something just so terrible, Matt. You put us in a place we didn't have to be. We could have come out of this with
smelling like a rose.
Yeah, smelling like a rose.
Right. Well, I didn't come out and say like, I didn't do like a war dance saying like,
oh wait, no, there was a time. No, you're right. Now I remember. I was like, what's it like or something. I said like, what does it feel like? We thought the Republican was going to win. You're like, I got Christie. I was under Christie.
Yeah, I mean, like, living
right.
in New Jersey, I expect a Republican governor, you know what I
Right.
mean? I
Yeah.
mean that's not actually true either, but
You're not
it's not
shocked
like
by
it's a
it, but
surprise. It's not shocking.
right.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he eked it out, the Dem.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Murphy, luck of the Irish.
And there were some other interesting results. Obviously so Wilson is telling us first time a Democrat won re-election since 1977 in New Jersey.
Wow. We should add that at the end. You know how when you read your fortunes, you're like in bed. You will
Right, in
inherit
bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In New Jersey.
In New Jersey. So defund didn't make it in Minneapolis. And then the other big result obviously was Virginia. I went to bed that night convinced that I was going to wake up and it was going to be McAuliffe, but
really, you did?
I mean, I'm
No.
scarred by the experience of the last 4 or 5 years because of all the between Iowa and New Hampshire, the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primary and the New York mayoral race. And yeah, I'm getting used to this whole idea of elections don't get settled on election night, and then when they do get settled, you're never really sure what the result is going to be. But it turned out to be Youngkin, and it's I think it's a paradigm shifting loss for the Democrats because they had a lot riding on this. Now, of course, you and I talked about this that night, that they were going to find a way to blame it on Bernie, and that's exactly what they did. We saw there. I mean, you can see there's mashups on the internet of commentators talking about how, if only that we had more discipline in the caucus and we're able to get an infrastructure bill passed, then Biden would have had a win that he could have given voters in Virginia and 3 dots. Therefore they would have won in Virginia. So like everything else, it always comes back to that.
Do we have any of those mashups?
You can find one of the funnier ones is, well, it's not even funny, but it's just so craven, is there's an interview with Tim Kaine, where he goes into the whole thing about how basically it's the progressives' fault. Blake Hounshell tweeted about it, saying that there's already talk about how in the Biden administration is being moved too far to the left, and that's why. And then there, I wrote a little bit about this, but there was a lot of hot taking about what happened in Loudoun County. They essentially said it was an updated version of Lee Atwater politics, which is really crazy because it's a much more complicated story than that, and especially since a lot of the voters that defected were not even white. I thought that was a little weird. So, the big question I guess we have to ask ourselves is the Democratic Party going to take a lesson from this, or are they going to dismiss this as an anomaly, right? Because their pattern has been either, well, there's nothing we can do about it because it's racism. That's like one thing, or the other thing is it's not our fault because of reasons, right? Or it's the burning people's fault, right?
Either way, there's not much to do.
Yeah, like there's never any like reforming of our actual thinking that has to be done.
And it's also funny because like if these people are so racist, then why, like one of the clips from, we didn't actually talk about this, but from Meet the Press with McAuliffe, he's talking about how Youngkin went after Toni Morrison, Beloved, that book. Mm-hmm. And he's like, why does he go after the Black woman, the African-American woman, the one African-American author? And it's like, that's how you're going to get out the vote?
Right.
The Toni Morrison stands?
Yeah, I mean, that's how you're going to get invited to a party in Georgetown.
Yeah.
But it's not how you're going to win an election. And also that was a misinterpretation of what I think that incident was all about, but whatever. It's just not survivable to come out and say parents shouldn't have control over education, right? Like they could have just come out and done, when we talked about this, they could have done some kind of like damage control or something, or some
Yeah.
kind of lie. You know, that's what politicians
Right.
do.
Yeah.
But they wanted to make a point, I think. And then the other thing that they were really, really trying super hard to do was identify Youngkin with Trump and
Right.
make this out to be a Trump phenomenon. The result in Virginia, what's interesting about it is that the gains were in exactly the places where Trump didn't do well. It was a different kind of vote. It didn't have a lot to do with some of the other results in you know, the recent election cycles. There were some different dynamics going on there. And you know, I don't know, it might be true if they had already passed a big reconciliation bill and had childcare and had some other stuff to
Point
to, that they might have had better success with these like angry parents. They didn't.
Yeah, they didn't have a good and they just didn't have a good response in general.
They just didn't have a good response. And he's a lousy candidate. So maybe they might write it up to that. Right. There's always that too. Right. Like that's the kind of John Kerry school of sort of self-analysis. Like it's not that we didn't have a coherent position on the war, which was the biggest subject in the world at the time. It's that we nominated a candidate who was a little bit charisma deficient.
Very charisma deficient. Not that he wasn't, but that certainly didn't help. But it was also it always is a combination of the content and the messaging, right?
Yeah. But I mean, as Biden proved, you can win with a charisma deficient or a charisma confusing candidate, right?
Charisma confused, yeah.
Yeah, charisma confused. Like, but Biden's like, from a sheer spectacle standpoint, he's kind of fun to watch.
He is very entertaining, unintentionally.
Right? It's a little bit like
Trump. He has that like Trumpishness.
Yeah, a little bit of Trumpishness. It's like Men in Black. You never know whether like what side of his face is going to open up and you know the eel is going to pop out or whatever. Like he's you know there's something wrong. Like the mask of humanity is just so tenuous with him. With Trump it's different. Obviously there's a different kind of animal underneath there, but
making jokes that are not really funny in the way that they think they're funny, but are
funny. That
in common. Yeah,
they definitely have that in common. Yeah.
He's so similar. We got to do a mashup with Biden and Ron from Ron and Sheila from Waiting for Guffman.
That would be a good one.
Travel agents who haven't been ironic. Some people find it ironical that we're travel agents. We haven't been outside of Missouri. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Telling the jokes that the uninvited waste of your time with jokes that you're not really sure are funny or not.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All right. So any other closing thoughts on this election week?
Did you see this ad? Did you see the segment that was going around about a gallon of milk?
No.
They did a thing, Breonna Keeler, as in, you know, it's Blame the Media Clock and Bernie's Right on Time. They had a segment on her show and they followed a family around and they quoted a family as saying, a gallon of milk was $1.99. Now it's $2.79. When you buy 12 gallons a week times 4 weeks, that's a lot of money. Which
Can we see that?
It's a lot. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Hold on.
Is she raising a minke whale at home? Like,
it's very weird.
As the U.S. experiences lingering high inflation and severe constraints on the supply chain, families are being forced to deal with the consequences in their everyday lives. Evan McMorris Santoro is live for us in New York City right now. Evan, you spoke with one couple about how this new economic reality is affecting how they feed their kids. What did they tell you?
Like a hostage blinking.
Well, Brianna, that's right. The important thing about this inflation right now is, you know, there's a lot of reasons why it's happening, but the important thing is where it's actually hitting. And it's hitting things like the cost of shelter, the cost of gasoline, like where I am at this gas station behind me. Gas is up more than $1 since last year. And here in Manhattan, obviously up more than that, but up more than 20 cents from even last month. And the other thing that inflation is affecting right now is food prices. These are things that you have to buy. So I went to Kennedale, Texas, to go shopping with a family to talk about what this actually means to live in America right now.
All right, let's go tackle this.
What does inflation mean for American families? This is the story of the Stottlers' weekly shop.
Good to see you guys. Good to see you.
We have 2 biological kids, and then my wife and I have a big heart for adoption, so we adopted a sibling group of 2, then 3, then 1, and then
all right.
A kid living with us right now who's kind of in a foster situation.
It feels like money isn't going as far as it used to.
Okay, let's see what we can do. I think probably in June, it was about $1 was worth $1. So now that dollar is worth about 70 cents. All right, now we're moving on to dairy, which is right there. We started seeing everything going up. Grocery prices went up. Gallon of milk was $1.99. Now it's $2.79. Well, when you buy 12 gallons a week, times 4 weeks, you know, that's a lot of money. That's what I'm talking about. Thanks, brother.
Again, this is what they buy every
It's
week.
48 extra
If you want
dollars.
to get any of these that are $1.79, you can pick 5 boxes worth.
Grocery shopping means tough choices right now.
We're not buying the most healthy stuff because that prices have gone way up. But I feel kind of guilty sometimes we can't afford the really good things that would
That's
be
a real
healthier
thing. That's a
also.
real problem.
Okay, so P.F. Chang's is like the elite. So let's
You mean
look,
elite price or elite quality?
like both.
Okay, so
So so where are the
P.F.
family
Chang's
size
is elite.
meals?
The Stottlers keep a close eye on their budget, and they shop deals.
This is 20 ounces. How many ounces is that? 24, so get that one.
Krista loves a coupon,
Buy this and get Rotel and chips free, is what it's supposed to be.
but these days, the family grocery list and the money they carefully plan to spend sometimes don't match.
We're at $90 already and we've got a basket and a half left. But God is good and always provides, so let's see where we'll go.
The math at the grocery store worked out.
Okay, so I don't need this. We're gonna take that off and then we're gonna add these items. Awesome, guys, y'all did great.
Then they had to add in the rest of the week's shopping. That gets delivered.
Oh, look, the Walmart stuff came.
The grand total, $310. How much would you have spent maybe back in March to do the same thing?
So probably we would have only spent probably about $150, $200, something like that in March, because it was quite a bit less.
The Stottlers are feeling the inflation squeeze to the tune of an extra $100 a week, they say. That's just for groceries. This family may be larger than many,
Let's go through the line by birthdays. Whoever has October birthdays gets to go first.
but they live the same middle-class life as their neighbors. The squeeze is getting tighter, and that means that middle-class life could be changing. If the prices keep rising the way they've been rising through the next 6 months, what's going to happen to, life in this house?
If it continues, we're just going to have to get more creative and maybe pick up an extra job if we have to. Doing food delivery or something like that to help make up the difference.
You can go down to beans and rice and still
Yeah.
sustain pretty economically. We don't want to have to do that. You want to enjoy what you're purchasing, but there's another level you can get to just to make sure you make it through.
So, Brianna, what this story is really about is uncertainty. Government officials and economists all suggest that this inflation rate that we're living through right now is going to come down at some point next year, but they don't know when. And so that means that right now, a trip to the grocery store, you just don't know how much you're going to have to spend. And when you spend as much as the Stottlers do, obviously that affects you pretty directly. But the point of the story is all of us are going to be feeling that squeeze eventually if these prices keep going the way that they're going. Brianna?
Yeah, indeed. And
We're all
thank you so much
Stottlers.
to the Stottlers for taking us inside that process. It's so important to see. Evan, thank you for your reporting.
I'm sorry. Normally I'm in favor of
Human interest stories.
human interest stories. What does the ordinary person live like? But like you got to send a reporter to Texas to find out like what buying a week's worth of groceries is like. I mean, that's pretty fucked up. Like,
From New York to Texas, yeah.
I mean, who are the people running CNN? Are they like George H.W. Bush? They haven't seen money in 15 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get someone else to do the shopping for them.
Right.
It's crazy. There's a couple of things. Number one, absolutely, there's somebody who knows when inflation is going to stop. It's the Fed officials. They can crush it at any moment. That's the whole point. It's a policy that you can you can control or not, depending on public policy. I guess it's Fed policy, so technically it's not exactly the government, but
Government adjacent.
yeah, I mean the Fed is it's a quasi-public, right, organ.
Havesy.
And then the other thing is the notion that inflation is a thing that hurts the little person.
Yeah, they love doing that.
They love doing that, whereas it's not exactly correct. Inflation is a moment in a high inflationary environment. You can have enormous wealth transfers that go from up to down. That's kind of the reason why there's such an emphasis on preventing it, because people who have tons of financial assets like the stability of knowing how much their stuff is going to cost, a few days from now, right? And they don't want to have wild swings in prices, and they don't want to have people who are middle class or working class or whatever it is, deciding to cash out, buy a whole bunch of gold, and wake up the next day and be rich and in their class. Like that's not how
Right.
that if you ever read the book The Secrets of the Temple, which is Bill Greider's big book on the Fed, it's a book that's so big you could like anchor an ocean liner with it. I mean, it's like this massive thing about the Federal Reserve. But one of the whole points of it is that there was this whole panic in the late 70s during the Carter years, because there was lots of inflation, and the people who were panicked, they weren't like regular people, it was rich people who were panicked, because uncertainty is not what they're looking for in financial leadership, right? So they though there was this huge crusade to get inflation under control. Now obviously it can hurt the ordinary person, but it's kind of a double-edged sword. There's like opportunity there too. You can buy stuff, and the value of the things that you buy will go up. And I don't know, it's just a simplistic take on the whole thing, but mainly, man, you really got to send a reporter out to tell us what shopping for milk is like. I don't know.
Yeah, and how much of milk was that still? How much? did they
12
say?
gallons.
So that's how much. How many people were in that family?
Seemed like, okay, so they had 3 natural kids, and then
Three biological
adopted
kids,
sibling,
and yeah.
siblings, and then there was some more. So
Yeah,
that's already
6 or 7.
that's
7 or
already
8,
seven before we get to that
7,
last group or
yeah,
whatever. So
right. 9.
that's still a lot of milk.
How much? Yeah, what are they doing with the milk? It's not their
Maybe they're-
fault. It's not the Stotler's fault per se. It's
No.
CNN's fault for centering this weird milk.
Yeah, they're
habit.
like this milk gobbling family,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They're like
what
a
do you
milk
think they do
hole.
with the milk? A milk hole, yeah. Because how much for real? How many kids were there, Wilson? Did you get a sense of how many kids were there when they were walking with them?
I thought it was they had 2, then they adopted 2, then they got 3
Adopted
more.
2 more?
That
or
would be
then some-
7.
Maybe some of them have little kids, because little
Yeah,
kids
right.
drink milk. Like you
Oh,
gotta
that's
you gotta
true,
have
yeah.
you gotta
It's still
have
more
that.
than a
Wrestlers.
gallon per person per week. There's no way there were 12 of them.
No.
Unless they just sit around drinking milk all day.
More than a
Milk
gallon.
baths. The price of
could-
water
that-
has gone up, so they have milk baths.
Milk
Oh.
baths, yeah. It's good for your skin, right?
Is it good for your
What if
skin?
that's what they were doing? I think they
Just
use like
pouring it all over
um,
themselves.
yeah. It's the elite treatment. What do they do? What do they
Maybe it's like
mule
a
milk?
weird Santeria
Donkey milk?
ritual.
Oh
Donkey
yeah,
milk.
that's true. Yeah. What do they use? Like, what kind of milk do people bathe in? There is some kind of milk that people put into.
CNN
Put
gives
into
us
some
a
kind of
sad story.
moisture.
Middle class families can't pour milk over themselves like they used to.
They used to, yeah. They can't drink their body weight in milk.
Thanks, Joe
like
Biden.
they used to.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Thanks,
Let's go,
yeah.
Brandon.
Yeah. It's just so ridiculous. It just seems so forced. Like they had to find again, like they had to go to Texas, and it's really not that big. It's not that deep. You could just say prices are raising. And as you said though, like this isn't, things like times like these are precisely why big spending is good.
Right. Yeah. And
They're trying to make it like the
in-
little
in-
guy's going to suffer.
inflation is always the bogeyman that they use to
Yeah.
cut down on every kind of
Yeah.
whether it's deficit spending or whether it's
That's
these
right,
Fed
yeah.
programs, right? Like it's the Larry Summerses of the world who are always whispering in the ear of
Right.
whatever politician, oh, the inflationary pressure. But yeah, and it would be great if they interviewed like a private equity titan or somebody who had a $400 million bond fund, and you ask them, let's go buy milk with this person, and ask them about inflation. You know what I mean? That would have been interesting, right?
Right. Yeah, let's do that. Matt, can you do that for TK News?
Yeah, maybe we can find somebody who's got a lot of assets under management. We'll do a milk shopping segment with them. No, but that was weird, definitely. But you're gonna start seeing that though. Like I think this is a thing that's coming, which is like with the labor shortage. You're starting to hear noises about corporations that might have to actually offer people benefits again because nobody wants to come back to work. They're gonna have to clamp down on that somehow.
Right.
They don't want to share. So
right. It's like you can barely, it's when you buy 100 sticks of butter a day.
A day.
It adds up. One stick of butter, okay, but once you get to 100 sticks.
What would you do with it? I mean, I can think of something. Yeah.
I like butter, but not in a way. I don't want to know about it. Like I never add butter to stuff. I just know I like it when it's in stuff, but I never put it on bread or anything.
A month ago when I was shoving 20 sticks of butter down my underpants a day, that only cost me $3.40. Now it's $4.40.
It's getting up there. Yeah.
Middle class families can't grease themselves up and wrestle like they used to.
Yeah.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. Now, olive oil, I'd empathize with because olive oil is great.
For
olive
cooking?
Oil you can moisturize with. You can dip your bread in. You can put it on pasta. Anything you have. And as I said earlier, it's great for the veggies.
You said that to me, not to the audience.
Right, but maybe that'll be a Substack only little. People like when we talk about food, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, you were telling me about how you cook you cook broccoli in olive oil, and I was
so good. And Matt was in disbelief.
I wasn't in disbelief. I expressed to you my something that was like validation, but it just was unconvincing.
It was so unconvincing, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you wind up finishing that pizza, by the way?
Oh yeah.
Wow. I had a slice
and I felt
night.
Disgusting.
You did? But you like that, right? Because you like that.
Well, that is part of the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I had one plain slice last night.
One? Did you feel better or worse after?
It was good. It was small. It was very, very good. It was $1 pizza. I had that with a diet Sunkist like orange thing. I haven't had that in so long. I was really
diet
Sunkist feeling. Maybe it wasn't Sunkist, but it was something like that, like slush. What is it?
Crush.
Orange slice, crush. Yeah.
Slice is terrible. I'm an anti-slice person.
Well, I don't know what brand it was, but it was orange flavored. And it's kind of a good diet. Like Diet Dr. Pepper is probably the best diet soda out there. It tastes the most like the original. It's not great. Dr. Pepper is kind of a weird soda.
I like Dr. Pepper. I'm all for Dr. Pepper.
It's fine, but I'm just saying the diet is really good.
I guess so.
But last night I just had when I saw it, it really.
What brand of soda would you be least surprised to see in the trunk of somebody just arrested for multiple homicide?
Oh, I don't know. I've never thought of that.
Like if they pulled over Ted Bundy.
Gallons of milk.
Gallons of milk. That's what you'd expect to find?
No. Well, Wilson is saying Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew for sure.
That's what you guys think?
I think Wilson's right.
RC cola.
RC is a good call. RC is probably probable cause to check the trunk in a lot of states.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It should be if it's not.
Right. License and registration, please. Oh, is that RC?
You're gonna have to pop the trunk.
You're gonna have to pop the trunk. And you hear the banging.
Yeah. Thank God for RC.
All right, so that happened. That was the news of the week. Thanks for hanging in there with it for us with us for this unusual segment, and
With us, for us, by us, yeah.
by us, with us, for us. What other prepositions are there? Against
That's
us?
all the Constitution.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah.
And we will see you again next week.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
All right, bye-bye.
Everyone likes. All right, you want to start or you want me to start?
No, you start.
All right. Everyone likes a great deal, like savings, markdowns, and hold on. Everyone likes a good deal, like savings,
No.
markdown.
Everyone likes a great deal, like savings, markdowns, and lunch specials.
But when it comes to car insurance, we know that the right place. Shit. But when it comes to car insurance, we know the right place.
We can't get through this read.
No, it's really me, not Matt.
Everyone likes a great deal, like savings, markdowns, and lunch specials. But when it comes to car insurance, we know the right place.
State Farm offers surprisingly great rates for your ride. Your friends don't have to have a connection or call in a favor. State Farm has options like insuring your ride and your home, getting you great rates on both.
Because insurance shouldn't put a hole in your wallet. These good neighbors are... Because insurance shouldn't put a hole in your wallet. Those good neighbors are in your corner. No promo codes, no waiting around for holiday deals, and no sales section.
State Farm offers surprisingly great rates because, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
No, wait a minute. I want that line.
All right. Which one do you want? You want to take the whole State Farm offers to the end?
State Farm offers surprisingly great rates. I can't believe I'm going to get to say this line. State Farm offers surprisingly great rates because, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or go to statefarm.com for a quote today. Katie, I feel like I've ascended to like a new plane.
I don't even know.
Is that what that is?
Isn't that it? State Farm. State Farm.
I can't believe I just got to read a State Farm line. I feel like a different person.
Why?
I don't know. Like,
they're not evil, right? Are they evil or anything?
They could be, but it's still iconic.
It's still iconic, yeah.
Right?
Oh, that's Safe Light. Whoops. So I'm wrong. So that's not the right thing. That's okay. We'll cut it out.
No, you're thinking of like a good neighbor. State Farm is there. No,
I'm thinking Safe Life replace. What is it? Safe Life report. Safe Life replace or something. Matt from State Farm.
Yeah, he's thinking of Jake from State Farm, but Wilson in this metaphor is Jake from State Farm.
Wilson.
And this is where we say like, yo, Matt, can you hook us up with a really good deal thanks for that really good deal you got us at State Farm. And he just says, no, that's just the deal that everybody gets.
Whoa.
And we're like, serious? No, come on.
No, really.
We know that you push some buttons for us and all that stuff. And no, really, this is just what everybody gets. I didn't do anything for you. That's the whole thing.
It really is surprisingly great.
Thanks, that's right.
State Farm.
Thanks, State Farm, because they're like a good neighbor. State Farm is there.
Like a good neighbor who doesn't charge you a lot of money. So here is our live coverage from Tuesday night.
Super interesting. So I came down here to Loudoun County, Virginia, which is like ground zero for this crazy like thing that's happening in American politics, which is I think being reflected in the gubernatorial election results tonight. Katie, how familiar are you with this whole story?
I mean, Terry, what I don't like about Terry, ready?
He's a Clinton person.
Of course. But he doesn't sound like he's from Virginia, does he now? He doesn't. And it's because he's not. I thought he was from the Midwest. You know where he's from?
Where is he from?
Upstate New York. I think Syracuse. And that's why he sounded like he had a Midwestern accent, because they have that up there. Do you know what I'm talking about? In some areas up north? Yeah. So
that's
anyway.
Joe
But that-
Biden has a Syracuse connection, obviously we
That's
know
where he went
about.
to. That's where he graduated in the top of his law school.
Yeah, the top being like the last three,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Was he was like 73 out of 80 or
yeah.
something like that?
Something ridiculously bad. Yeah.
So okay, so this is a crazy story, and I got here earlier today, and I've been like pounding the pavement, talked to a whole bunch of people, including some of the leaders of some of these family groups that are sort of responsible for the
Youngkin success, relative
yeah,
success.
exactly, and
So she thinks it's total disaster for Dems and bloodbath coming next year.
yeah. All right, hang on a
Okay,
second.
it's showing. So what are the results? Jesus. Loudoun County, that's where you were at. Matt, you pushed it left. You pushed him to the
Loudoun County. So I mean, that's a significant number for Youngkin. Now, and this is what I want to talk about. For those who don't know the story, McAuliffe is going to win this thing in a walk. Like, I talked to one guy today who is like a hardcore conservative, homeschooled, deeply religious, and basically was saying, like, I was not even planning on voting because the consensus was it wasn't going to be close. And then
Right.
So it was sort of this come from ahead loss by McAuliffe with unbelievably sort of rapid collapse of this candidate. And it all started with this weird story in Loudoun County, Virginia, which is one of the wealthiest and highest educated counties in America. In fact, I think it might be at the top of both of those lists. I'm not sure. It's at or near the top of both of those lists in terms of percentage of college graduates and like highest per capita income. So what happened basically is there was this sort of a minor controversy about like trans policy at one of the school district, and there was a teacher, a gym teacher, who got up and gave it a speech and essentially said something to the effect of, I think his name was Tanner Cross, and he kind of sort of expressed some objections on religious grounds. He said it was religious. He's an elementary school gym teacher, so that it was weird already that this was even coming up. And he got put in suspension for giving that speech, which annoyed some of the parents in the district. And then there was this whole secondary thing that happened after that, involving a guy named Scott Smith, whose daughter allegedly, actually not even allegedly anymore. It's now it's been the this sort of juvenile version of a conviction already. There was an assault in a bathroom. She had a prior relationship with this also underage guy who wore a skirt, and the school was being cagey about whether or not they were admitting that there had been any reported incidents in a bathroom, because they were trying to pass a trans rights policy that involved bathroom use. And just so that we're clear, that issue is actually almost completely tangential to this whole thing. It's got a lot of people up in arms if you read the op-ed pages, like, as if this is a big anti-trans thing. It's really not significantly about that at all. This is really about the school board in this one district, Loudoun County, allegedly, like, it depends on who you talk to. The Republicans will all say that the school board is not being straight with them and has hidden certain things from them and won't listen to them, and has done things like shut off the cameras in town meetings so that speeches by parents are no longer recorded because they were going viral and it was becoming unpopular for the school board. So it's this big square up between elected officials and the school board and the parents. And then McAuliffe kept taking these positions, essentially saying, like, we can't let parents push us around. We can play the exact verbiage. And there were a number of interviews, like Chuck Todd also interviewed McAuliffe about this issue, and McAuliffe would say things like, we can't let parents decide this, or even tangentially, just for a moment, it's a bad soundbite.
Right.
And I watched today people coming to vote, and the thing that was most obvious was that Asian and South Asian parents were taking the Republican literature and not taking it from the Democratic volunteers. And I had more than one, I had a number of people basically saying the same thing, which is a lot of these sort of upper class, like wealthy immigrant families came to this country specifically because of the good schools. And they're very, very traditional about education. They want to be involved, and they've always voted Democratic. And this was the big sea change of the Trump years, was that upper class wealthy districts like this went completely Democratic in the Trump years. And now for it to go back to anywhere near 50-50 is like a catastrophe for Democrats. So that's why that number of like 56 to 44 or whatever it was is like a really bad sign. And that's what Crystal's talking about, which is, that it was almost impossible for Democrats to lose areas like this, or even have to compete in areas like this after Trump. And now they're in a fight because they've taken some very strange positions about the sort of role of parents in schooling. So, and then the father flipped out at a meeting on June 22nd. And Wilson, I think I sent you that clip. You can see. So basically, there was a town meeting. The father got up, he spoke. There were some parents who were upset, and I should stress, like I'm at the initial stage of reporting on all this, so like this is just early impressions.
Right.
I don't have the whole thing nailed down, but it was after the meeting, some sheriff's deputies, he had gotten into an argument with a woman after the meeting, and they were getting hot, and a sheriff's deputy went and grabbed him. He, depending on who you talk to, he either resisted a little or he resisted a lot. He ended up getting arrested, and this became part of the predicate for Merrick Garland's whole memo about threatening parents at school board meetings. So, and then the other thing is there's this group now in Loudoun County called Fight for Parents. The composition of it is really interesting. It's got some like hardcore Republicans in there, but it's got a lot of sort of old school traditional liberal Democrats. Like one of the board members voted for both Clinton and Biden, and I ran into a number of people who had that kind of profile today. Like one of the people I interviewed was Indian American. He had voted for Obama, then in 2008, then he voted for Romney in 2012, then he voted for Clinton in 2016, then he didn't vote for anybody else in 2020, but was going to vote for Youngkin now, right? So there's this sort of new types of voters who are coming back again and voting against Republicans, voting against Democrats, and these people didn't exist when Trump was the candidate. Like, because Youngkin isn't completely batshit crazy, and there's this issue. It's created this problem for Democrats. Wilson, can you show this tweet I just sent you? So this is a tweet from Sahil Kapoor of NBC, and for those who can't see, what it shows is Virginia in 2020, white women were voting 50% Biden, 49% Trump. 2021, white women are 57% Youngkin, 43% McAuliffe. So that's a 15-point swing, according to this NBC reporter. Now, I'd love to see what the numbers are for white men, because again, Biden did really well with white men in 2020. You can see that the ad campaigns were heavily targeting white women in Virginia. Youngkin was heavily stressing education. It's just so strange to see a race that between Democrats and Republicans that doesn't come down to some, right, Wilson, like we're so used to it being, I don't know, Trump talking about whether aliens from Mars are going to conquer the Earth, and the Democrat having some kind of response to it.
Do you think the race is about? Could it actually be about the infrastructure bill and reconciliation? Could that ever influence stuff anymore, or are we just still on aliens?
It could be that, and don't forget there's part of the state that's pretty tuned into Joe Manchin, right? Because it borders his state. So there could be people who are frustrated with, but I don't know. We just showed a graphic that showed that exit polling shows white women swung 15% to the GOP in this race. So
Wow.
I'd love to see what it is for white
crazy.
guys, and I'd love to see what it is for Asian voters also,
Right.
because there's a little bit of the same issue that's going on in California, where like some of the competitive schools for gifted children, they're no longer. Let's just say it's become harder for Asian kids to get in than previously, and there's a lot of parents who are upset about that. I talked to today.
Oh yeah, I mean, people keep that seems to be the conventional wisdom, right? Is that it's about the infrastructure reconciliation, and I mean, do they ever ask people about that? But I feel like the idea of gridlock in general maybe could be used against McAuliffe more, but that is as much as I see it happening, as opposed to the details of Manchin and Sinema.
Yeah, and Youngkin is a relatively inexperienced politician, so he's not going to get
He's
that.
not part of the dysfunction. He's not associated with it.
About a month and a half ago, we had a tweet from one of our favorite people who was prognosticating in this election.
Oh,
together on these big issues, why so many Republicans have actually endorsed me. Former delegates, Bill Kristol, one of the most conservative writers in America. Why? Terry has the experience of getting this done, and that's what we need here.
He needed
because we've got tough times ahead, and we can't go with a candidate who is too extreme.
By the way, I put a lot of.
He's endorsed by Donald Trump 3 times. He said he was honored to have his endorsement. He wants to ban abortions here in Virginia.
Nice.
The number one issue he talked about the entire campaign was election integrity. The big issue I'm talking about are jobs, economic development. That's how you grow, investing in education, lifting up healthcare. He's gone as far to say that so much of the reason I'm running is because of Donald Trump. Well, let me be clear to all you in Virginia.
He just did this.
Thank you, Mr.
McCullough.
Hello, thank you so much for listening to and watching Useful Idiots. For full episodes and extended interviews, please subscribe at usefulidiots.substack.com. You can subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/usefulidiots for clips, live streams, and full episodes.